leave Genoa for Levantos. The only way, and very in their cuisine, very much so.
I notice northern Italy seems to have a lot of faded elegance, hotels and cafes and so on. They're always built about, it seems like 200 years ago, and they were elegant then, and they're still a little bit elegant now, but a little bit on the grimy side. Is
right.
that what you found?
That's exactly what we found. Where we stayed in Monterosa Almere, which is the town closest to Levantos, it's a little bit more modern, because that road, it can still be reached by road. Some of the roads aren't the best, but it still can be reached by road. Where we stayed... The other four little cities, or four little towns really, cliff dwellings can almost be called, have no hotels, maybe one hotel in the whole town. And so really the best thing to do is almost reserve before you go down, although it's not the kind of thing one would like to do. One would like to sort of fall upon a nice little place.
Barry will leave the name of his hotel with us, and if you're interested in making a reservation at that particular hotel, just contact us at taking off.
Okay. Well, I'd like to talk a little bit about the cuisine. My wife and I, when we do a lot of traveling, we like to make a point of having local cuisine, and we spend a lot of time eating. A lot of our money is spent on eating. And they have a great white wine in the area. It's dry. And one of the specialties of the area is pesto sauce. And it's a sauce made of crushed basil leaves, garlic, olive oil, and pine nuts. And it's used as a topping on pasta. Something like we would use a meat and mushroom type sauce for spaghetti. They use this on any kind of pasta, whether it's a lasagna, regular spaghetti, any kind.
Sort of an all-purpose sauce.
Exactly, and it is fantastic. Fell in love with it, both of us. It was sort of our appetizer for every meal, and we made sure we had it. It was very good. It was very freshly made every day, and following it, we had some kind of seafood. Of course, seafood is the specialty of the area also, and I did a lot of eating of frito misto, so to speak, and what it was a battered fish of all kinds: squid, octopus, eel, daily catches of small fish, and it was a surprise every day, because each little town caught their own sort of little specialty type thing and served it up.
You're making me hungry.
Oh, it was excellent. And along with the local wine, we had a little restaurant. They call it La Grotto, which is sort of like a little cave type of grotto, and it was built right in the rock. I mean, the rock's right there above your head, and it's sort of like plaster Paris around it. And they had their own wine, and it was just superb, and it was really nice.
This sounds as though it might be expensive.
Well, the meals themselves weren't. We found the hotels were a little bit steep for what we thought, what we were expecting when we first got down there. But when we looked to see the whole area over and what was offered, it wasn't really. One thing, though, is a lot of us Canadians in Europe like to travel with maybe the plastic a little bit more than the hard cash. And just a word, down that area, Visa is not accepted. Next to nowhere. They do accept Euro checks and a little bit of MasterCard. Even American Express is not accepted. They believe in the cold cash in the barrel, which is, it goes with the area. It's so small, they have sort of suspicions of a lot of people around, although there are a lot of tourists. But they like the hard cash.
Well, every area seems to have its own rules about that. Anyway.
Exactly. Right.
I think we'll do a program sometime of taking off on just how acceptable various charge cards and methods of payment are in various countries, because it's quite a complex question.
Right. It took us by surprise. Not that it was anything drastic or anything. It just took us a little bit by surprise. But it's just the point to keep in hand, right? Money's and the way they use it and what they use is quite different throughout here.
So one overnight train ride down, and there you are, right at Cinqueterre.
Exactly. We left Offenburg late at night, around 11:30. We arrived in Genoa straight through, no stops, around 8. And by about 10 o'clock in the morning, we were down in Monterosso. And so we had lost absolutely no time. We were right in there. We had a good sleep on the train. The Five Lands itself, Levantos is a little bit out of the Five Lands. La Spezia is the capital of Cinque Terre. Now, from Levantos, we took a commuter train to Monterosso. And then after Monterosso, we have Vernazzi, then Cornelia, Manarola, and then Rio Maggiore. and then you have to take an out-of-the-way area to get to La Spezia. Now the towns, as I mentioned, you can take a ferry, which was expensive. Probably the most expensive thing was the ferry ride between the 5 little towns. But there's beautiful walking paths. From Monterosso to Vernazzi, very, very steep. We found that with Nancy being 6 months pregnant, what we did is we got on the commuter train early in the morning, went all the way down to Rio Maggiore, and started walking back. And it's about a 5-10 minute walk between Rio Maggiore and Manarola. We stopped and had a meal, beautiful meal of wine, the whole bit, of course, fish. And then we walked to Cornelia. By then it was getting late, Nancy was getting tired, and we came back. Then we went back the next day to Cornelia and walked to Vernazzi. But we didn't do the Vernazzi Monterosso because of the steepness of the hills. And then we took the train back. We spent a day just lying in the beaches in Monterosso. Monterosso is a little bit older than some of the other places, but at the same time, as I mentioned, modern. They have what they call the old city and the new town. And it's divided by a medieval tower, and you have to sort of go underneath a cliff. And also, it's just like going from night to day. You have the nice modern area with a beautiful beach, and some of the nice restaurants, things like that, marina. And then also you go through this little tunnel, which isn't very long, and you're in the old section, old church. As you mentioned, the griminess of a lot of the buildings. And the nightlife was nice, mostly outdoor nightlife. And a lot of kids in the streets, and the old fellas playing pétanque and boule, and it was quite a nice atmosphere. It was like I say, going from night and day, just going through this little tunnel. And with the water being nice, we spent some time just lying on the beach, soaking in the rains. It was quite peaceful. As I mentioned, very relaxing. You can do whatever you want to do whenever you want to do.
Sandy or Pebble Beach?
It was sandy. Half of it was sandy. The old area, it's a smaller beach. It was sandy. The area where they brought their boats up and down from the water was a little bit more pebbly, and the new side was mostly pebbly. So it was. We had a nice area. We were just about a 2-minute walk from the hotel.
And you think you'd go back there?
We would very much like to go back, and this time we have our little one to go back, and so when he's a little bit bigger and a little bit more travelable, then we would definitely head back there.
Well, thanks for sharing your trip to Cinque Terre with us. Barry Russell's our guest. Joining us for our visit portion of Taking Off is Mr. Jocelyn Lahr, who is the regional director for Air Inter, or as you wish to pronounce it, Air Inter. And Air Inter is the internal French airline. And as Monsieur Hubert will point out, there are several advantages of Air Inter. For one thing, Strasbourg is right around the corner from us.
Yes, it takes about half an hour to reach the Strasbourg airport. And we have several advantages to offer because we are cheaper than international airlines. For example, if you fly to Paris, it will cost you 177 marks. I translated in marks for you. And if you fly to Nice, it's 272 Deutsche Mark. If you compare that with international flights from Frankfurt or Stuttgart, you see there is a large difference, about 30%. Yes.
I noticed that your prices are not a great deal more than it would cost to take the train both ways.
We are on several stretches cheaper than the train if, of course, you take the first class fare, which is comparable with airplane fares. Therefore, the planes are very well occupied, and we have about 65% load factor on the main stretches, and we have 7 flights a day to Paris. And we have now got the Airbus, the French, the European production. This is a large aircraft with 314 seats.
Now, I'm looking at your tariff schedule here now, and you have red flights, white flights, and blue flights. And there's one price that kind of intrigues me. A blue flight to Paris only costs 78 marks. That's one way, eh?
Yes.
Okay, now, how could you take advantage of a blue flight? What days are those?
What we call blue flights are open for several kind of customers. The red flights are reserved for business flying people. I mean, if you take the 7 o'clock flight in the morning, you have to pay the full fare because his plane is very hard to get the seats on. If you are young or if you are a group of 10 people at least, if you are older than 60 years for women or 65 for men, you get the blue flight and the price is about 40% cheaper.
Now, you also have some weekend fares. What do those involve?